Śrīmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatarashita Śrīmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatarashita Śrīmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatarashita Śrīmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatarashita Śrīmad Śrīla Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatarashita Śrīmad Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Mahabhagavat Śrīla Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannatha Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vaja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Avishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Oh, and I think today is Little Vishnu Shivanjala Bhakti Kumud Shanta Gosai Maharaj ki jai to Dear Shubhakti Rubhav Kiti ki jai, if I'm correct. Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Daipayano Virahaka Tara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedu Stang Sarva Bhuttaridayam Mulimanitosmi Narayanam Namaskritam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vedantastoya Bhadrani Vidunati Suritsatam Nashta Praishvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavaivasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadalakshay Kshiptashtakamaditarakavade Kripa Mahitvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh, Dandavat Pranam Indira Mataji, Radhe Radhe, Gargaraj. Oh, and how is my cold? Well, it didn't get worse, so I think I'm gonna be getting better now. It's not like I don't think it's gonna turn into a whole thing, so that's good. But yeah, I'm still a bit sick. I actually just woke up. Like I woke up after 7 o'clock. Because I also went to bed really late. I went to bed at 1:30, and then I just woke up and didn't do anything. Just woke up, set up my computer. That's why I didn't make it full screen because I didn't want anybody to see my face. Anyhow, yeah, today's going to be a short reading. Just reading up to verse 12 in the next chapter. So Kardama Muni, he accepted the offer from Manu to accept his daughter's hand in marriage, and Kardama Muni, he said, "Our marriage can take place. She is so beautiful that even Vishwavasu was stunned to see her. She is from a great family. But I will stay with her only till she produces offspring, and then I will take to the renounced order." And so then Kardama Muni marries Devahuti, and Manu returns. Manu, he gladly offered his daughter. Shatarupa, Manu's wife, gave various gifts with feelings of separation, and they left for their daughter. And then they left their daughter and returned. And then we ended with a description of Manu's wonderful rule, the glory of Manu's capital, Bardhishmati, and we're reading how Manu is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness throughout his life, 71 yuga cycles, and he teaches the sacred duties for human beings. So that's where we are right now. The previous verse, what was the previous verse? Consequently, although Manu's duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantar era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Okay, so now we are caught up. Sa evam swantaram ninye yuganan ekasaptatim vasudeva prasangena paribhuta gatitraya. He passed his time, which lasted 71 cycles of the 4 ages, 71 times 4,320,000 years, always thinking of Vasudeva, and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudeva. Thus he transcended the 3 destinations. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The 3 destinations are meant for persons who are under the control of the 3 modes of material nature. These destinations are sometimes described as the awakened, dreaming, and unconscious stages. In Bhagavad Gita, the 3 destinations are described as destinations of persons in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. It is stated in the Gita that those who are in the mode of goodness are promoted to better living conditions in higher planets, and those who are in the mode of passion remain within this material. Those who are in the modes of passion remain within this material world on the earth or on heavenly planets. But those who are in the mode of ignorance are degraded to an animal life on planets where life is lower than human. But one who is Krishna conscious is above these 3 modes of material nature. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who engages in devotional service to the Lord automatically becomes transcendental to the 3 destinations of material nature and is situated in the Brahmabhuta, or self-realized stage. Although Swayambhuva Manu, the ruler of this material world, appeared to be absorbed in material happiness, he was neither in the mode of goodness nor in the mode of passion or ignorance, but in the transcendental stage. Therefore, one who fully engages in devotional service is always liberated. Bilvamangal Thakur, a great devotee of the Lord, stated, "If I have unflinching devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna, then Mother Liberation is always engaged in my service. The complete perfection of material enjoyment religion, and economic development is at my command. People are after dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Generally, they perform religious activities to achieve some material gain, and they engage in material activity for sense gratification. After being frustrated in material sense gratification, one wants to be liberated and become one with the absolute truth. These four principles form the transcendental path for the less intelligent. Those who are actually intelligent engage in Krishna consciousness, not caring for these four principles of the transcendental method. They at once elevate themselves to the transcendental platform, which is above liberation. Liberation is not a very great achievement for a devotee, to say nothing of the results of ritualistic performances in religion, economic development, or the material life of sense gratification. Devotees do not care for these. They are situated always on the transcendental platform of the Brahmaputra stage of self-realization. Sharira manasa divya vayase ye chamanusha bhautikascha katang klesha bhadante harisankshayam. Therefore, O Vidura, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures? Purport. Every living entity within this material world is always afflicted by some kind of miseries pertaining either to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances. Distresses due to cold in winter and severe heat in summer always inflict miseries on the living entities in this material world. But one who has completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in Krishna consciousness is in the transcendental stage. He is not disturbed by any miseries, either due to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances of summer and winter. He is transcendental to all these miseries. Wait, why did it say that in this purport? Therefore, we do how did persons. Okay. Sorry. Ya prishta muni vipraha dharmam nana vidanchuvam nrinam varnashramanam cha sarva bhutta hita sada. In reply to questions asked by certain sages, he, Swayambhuva Manu, out of compassion for all living entities, taught the diverse sacred duties of men in general and the different varnas and ashrams. Etatta adirajasya manushcharitam arbhutam varnitam varnaniyasya tarapatyodayam shrinu. I have spoken to you the wonderful character of Swayambhuva Manu, the original king, whose reputation is worthy of description. Please hear as I speak of the flourishing of his daughter, Devahuti. Chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation. And today we will be reading about Kardama being pleased with Devahuti's service and Devahuti's request to Kardama for a child. Okay. Maitreya uvacha pitribhyam prastite sadvi patimingita kovida nityam paryacharat pritya bhavaniva bhavam prabhu. And Dandavat pranams at Revati Didi. Maitreya continued. After the departure of her parents, the chaste woman Devahuti, who could understand the desires of her husband, served him constantly with great love, as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. Purport. The specific example of Bhavani is very significant. Bhavani means the wife of Bhava, or Lord Shiva. Bhavani, or Parvati, the daughter of the king of Himalayas, selected Lord Shiva, who appears to be just like a beggar, as her husband. In spite of her being a princess, she undertook all kinds of tribulations to associate with Lord Shiva, who did not even have a house, but was sitting underneath the trees and passing his time in meditation. Although Bhavani was the daughter of a great king, she used to serve Lord Shiva just like a poor woman. Similarly, Devahuti was the daughter of an emperor, Swayambhuva Manu, yet she preferred to accept Kardama Muni as her husband. She served him with great love and affection, and she knew how to please him. Therefore, she is designated here as Sadhvi, which means a chaste, faithful wife. And I think Sadhvi is the female version of Sadhu. Sadhu and Sadhvi. Her rare example is the ideal of Vedic civilization. Every woman is expected to be as good and chaste as Devahuti or Bhavani. Today in Hindu society, unmarried girls are still taught to worship Lord Shiva with the idea that they may get husbands like him. Lord Shiva is the ideal husband, not in the sense of riches or sense gratification, but because he is the greatest of all devotees. Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. Shambhu, or Lord Shiva, is the ideal Vaishnava. He constantly meditates upon Lord Ram and chants, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Shiva has a Vaishnava Sampradaya, which is called Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. Unmarried girls worship Lord Shiva so that they can expect a husband who is as good a Vaishnava as he. The girls are not taught to select a husband who is very rich or very opulent for material sense gratification. Rather, if a girl is fortunate enough to get a husband as good as Lord Shiva in devotional service, then her life becomes perfect. The wife is dependent on the husband, and if the husband is a Vaishnava, then naturally she shares the devotional service of the husband because she renders him service. This reciprocation of service and love between husband and wife is the ideal of a householder's life. Vishrambhenatma Shochena Gauravena Gamena Cha Shrushrushaya Sohridena Vacha Madhuraya Chabho. O Vidura, Devahuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of the senses, with love, and with sweet words. Purport. Here, two words are very significant. Devahuti served her husband in two ways. Vishrambhena and Gauravena. These are two important processes in serving the husband or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishrambhena means with intimacy, and Gauravena means with great reverence. The husband is a very intimate friend. Therefore, the wife must render service just like an intimate friend. And at the same time, she must understand that the husband is superior in position, and thus she must offer him all respect. A man's psychology and a woman's psychology are different. As constructed by bodily frame, a man always wants to be superior to his wife, and a woman, as bodily constituted, is naturally inferior to her husband. Thus, the natural instinct is that the husband wants to post himself as superior to the wife, and this must be observed. Even if there is some wrong on the part of the husband, the wife must tolerate it, and thus there will be no misunderstanding between husband and wife. Vishrambhena means with intimacy, but it must not be familiarity that breeds contempt. According to the Vedic civilization, a wife cannot call her husband by name. In the present civilization, the wife calls her husband by name, but in Hindu civilization, she does not. Thus, the inferiority and superiority complexes are recognized. Sorry. Thus, the inferiority and superiority complexes are recognized. Dhamena cha. A wife has to learn to control herself, even if there is a misunderstanding. So hridena vacha madhuraya means always desiring good for the husband and speaking to him with sweet words. A person becomes agitated by so many material contacts in the outside world. Therefore, in his home, he must be treated by his wife with sweet words. Visrija kamam dabang cha, dvesham lobham agham madam, apramatto gata nityang, tejiyang sam atoshayat. Working sanely and diligently, she pleased her very powerful husband, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. Purport. Here are some of the qualities of a great husband's great wife. Kardama Muni is great by spiritual qualification. Such a husband is called Tejiya Mangsam, most powerful. Although a wife may be equal to her husband in advancement in spiritual consciousness, she should not be vainly proud. Sometimes it happens that the wife comes from a very rich family, as did Devahuti, the daughter of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu. She could have been very proud of her parentage, but that is forbidden. The wife should not be proud of her parental position. She must always be submissive to the husband and must give up all vanity. As soon as the wife becomes proud of her parentage, her pride creates great misunderstanding between the husband and wife, and their nuputo life is ruined. Devahuti was very careful about that, and therefore it is said here that she gave up pride completely. Devahuti was not unfaithful. The most sinful activity for a wife is to accept another husband or another lover. Chanakya Pandit has described 4 kinds of enemies at home. If the father is in debt, he is considered to be an enemy. If the mother has selected another husband in the presence of her grown-up children, she is considered to be an enemy. If a wife does not live well with her husband, but deals very roughly, then she is an enemy. And if a son is a fool, he is also an enemy. That's so harsh. In family life, father, mother, wife, and children are assets. But if the wife or mother accepts another husband in the presence of her husband or son, then according to Vedic civilization, she is considered an enemy. A chaste and faithful woman must not practice adultery. That is a greatly sinful act. Jeez, okay. There's a line missing. So okay. Savai devar shivaryastam manavim samanuvratam daivargari yasa pratyur ashasanam mahashisha. This is the line that's missing. Kalena bhuyasakshamam karshitam vratacharyaya prema karga daya vacha pidata kripaya bravit. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than providence. Thus she expected great blessings from him. Having served him for a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observances. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. Purport. The wife is expected to be of the same category as the husband. She must be prepared to follow the principles of the husband, and then there will be a happy life. If the husband is a devotee and the wife is a materialistic, there cannot be any peace in the home. The wife must see the tendencies of the husband and must be prepared to follow him. From Mahabharata, we learn that when Gandhari understood that her would-be husband, Dhritarashtra, was blind, she immediately began to practice blindness herself. Thus she covered her eyes and played the part of a blind woman. She decided that since her husband was blind, she must also act like a blind woman. Otherwise, she would be proud of her eyes, and her husband would be seen as inferior. The word Samanuvrata indicates that it is the duty of a wife to adopt the special circumstances in which the husband is situated. Of course, if the husband is as great as Kardama Muni, then a very good result accrues from following him. But even if the husband is not a great devotee like Kardama Muni, it is the wife's duty to adapt herself according to his mentality. That makes married life very happy. It is also mentioned herein that by following the strict vows of a chaste woman, Princess Devahuti became very skinny, and therefore her husband became compassionate. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king, and yet was serving him just like an ordinary woman. She was reduced in health by such activities, and he became compassionate and addressed her as follows. Kardama uvacha Tushtohamadya tava manavimanadaya Shushushaya paramaya paraya cha bhaktya Yo dehi namayam ativa surit sadeha Navekshita samuchita shapito mararte. Kardama Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. Purport. It is indicated here that one's body is very dear, yet Devahuti was so faithful to her husband that not only did she serve him with great devotion, service, and respect, but she did not even care for her own health. That is called selfless service. It appears that Devahuti had no sense pleasure, even with her husband, otherwise she would not have deteriorated in health. Acting to facilitate Kardama Muni's engagement in spiritual elevation, she continually assisted him, not caring for bodily comfort. It is the duty of a faithful and chaste wife to help her husband in every respect, especially when the husband is engaged in Krishna consciousness. In this case, the husband also amply rewarded the wife. This is not to be expected by a woman who is the wife of an ordinary person. Ye me swadharma niratasya tapasamadhi Vidyatma yoga vijita bhagavat prasada Tanevate maranusevanaya varudan Drishtim prapashya vitaramya payan ashokan. Kardama Muni continued, I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. Although you have not yet experienced these achievements, which are free from fear and lamentation, I shall offer them all to you because you are engaged in my service. Now just look at them. I am giving you the transcendental vision to see how nice they are. Purport. Devahuti engaged only in the service of Kardama Muni. She was not supposed to be so advanced in austerity, ecstasy, meditation, or Krishna consciousness, but imperceptibly she was sharing her husband's achievements, which she could neither see nor experience. Automatically, she achieved these graces of the Lord. What are the graces of the Lord? It is stated here that the graces of the Lord are abhay, free from fearfulness. In the material world, if someone accumulates $1 million, he is always full of fear because he is always thinking, what if the money is lost? But the benediction of the Lord, the Bhagavat Prasad, is never to be lost. It is simply to be enjoyed. There is no question of loss. One simply gains and enjoys gaining. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. When one achieves the grace of the Lord, the result is that sarva dukkani, all distresses, are destroyed. Sorry, one second, just stretching. When situated in the transcendental position, one is freed from the two kinds of material diseases, hankering and lamentation. This is also stated in Bhagavad Gita. After devotional life begins, we can achieve the full result of love of Godhead. Love of Krishna is the highest perfection or Bhagavat Prasad, or divine mercy. This transcendental achievement is so greatly valuable that no material happiness can compare to it. Prabodhananda Saraswati said that if one achieves the grace of Lord Chaitanya, he becomes so great that he does not care a fig, even for the demigods. He thinks of monism as hellish, and for him, the perfection of controlling the senses is as easy as anything. Heavenly pleasures become to him more than stories. Heavenly pleasures become to him no more than stories. Actually, there is no comparison between material happiness and transcendental happiness. By the grace of Kardama Muni, Devahuti experienced actual realization simply by serving. We get a similar example in the life of Narad Muni. In his previous life, Narad was a maidservant's son, but his mother was engaged in the service of great devotees. He got the opportunity to serve the devotees, and simply by eating the remnants of their foodstuff and carrying out their orders, he became so elevated that in his next life, he became the great personality Narad. For spiritual achievements, the easiest path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and to serve him with heart and soul. That is the secret of success. As stated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas of prayer to the spiritual master, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. By serving or receiving the grace of spiritual master, one receives the grace of the Supreme Lord. By serving her husband, Kardama Muni, Devahuti shared in his achievements. Similarly, a sincere disciple, simply by serving a bona fide spiritual master, can achieve all the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master simultaneously. Anye punar bhagavato brava udvijrimba vibrangshitartarachana kim urukramasya siddhasi bhunkshva vibhavane jadarmadohan devyan nararaturatigan nripavrik vikriyabhi. Kardama Muni continued, what is the use of enjoyments other than the Lord's grace? All material achievements are subject to be annihilated simply by a movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By your principles of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy the transcendental gifts very rarely obtained by persons proud of aristocracy and material possessions. Purport. Lord Chaitanya recommended that the greatest achievement of human life is to achieve the grace of the Lord, love of God. He said, Prema Pumartha Mahan. To achieve love of Godhead is the highest perfection of life. The same perfection is recommended by Kardama Muni to his wife. His wife belongs to a very aristocratic royal family. Generally, those who are very materialistic or who possess material wealth and prosperity are unable to appreciate the value of transcendental love of God. Although Devahuti was a princess coming from a very great royal family, fortunately she was under the supervision of her great husband, Kardama Muni, who offered her that best gift which can be bestowed in human life, the grace of the Lord, or love of God. This grace of the Lord was achieved by Devahuti by the goodwill and satisfaction of her husband. She served her husband, who was a great devotee and saintly person, with great sincerity, love, affection, and service, and Kardama Muni was satisfied. He willingly gave love of God, and he recommended that she accept it and enjoy it, because he had already achieved it. Love of God is not an ordinary commodity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was worshipped by Rupa Goswami because he distributed love of God, Krishna Prema, to everyone. Rupa Goswami praised him as Mahavadanya, a greatly munificent personality, because he was freely distributing to everyone love of Godhead, which is achieved by wise men only after many, many births. Krishna Prema, Krishna consciousness, is the highest gift which can be bestowed on anyone whom we presume to love. Krishna Prema is the highest gift which can be bestowed on anyone whom we presume to love. One word used in this verse, Nija Dharma Dohan, is very significant. Devahuti, as the wife of Kardama Muni, achieved an invaluable gift from her husband because she was very faithful to him. For a woman, the first principle of religion is to be faithful to her husband. If, unfortunately, the husband is a great personality, then the combination is perfect, and the lives of both the wife and the husband are at once fulfilled. Evam bruvanam, evam bruvanam, evam bruvanam abala kila yoga maya, Vedya vichakshanam aveksha gata dirasit, samprashraya pranaya vivalaya gireshar, vreda valoka vilasar, dhati sananaha. Upon hearing the speaking of her husband, who excelled in knowledge of all kinds of transcendental science, innocent Devahuti was very satisfied. Her smiling face shining with a slightly bashful glance. She spoke in a choked voice because of great humility and love. Purport. It is said that if one is already engaged in Krishna consciousness and is rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord, then it can be supposed that his life has finished all the recommended courses of austerity, penance, religion, sacrifice, and mystic yoga and meditation. Devahuti's husband was so expert in the transcendental science that there was nothing for him to argue about. And when she heard him speak, she was confident that since he was very much advanced in devotional service, he had already surpassed all transcendental educational activities. She had no doubt about the gifts offered by her husband. She knew that he was expert in offering such gifts, and when she understood that he was offering the greatest gift, she was very satisfied. She was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and therefore she could not reply. Then, with faltering language, just like an attractive wife, she spoke the following words. Devahutirvacha Radham Batadija Vrishaitaramo Yoga Maya Dipe Tvai Vipotaravai Vibharta Yaste Bhyadai Samaya Sakiranga Sango Bhoyar Gariyasi Guna Prasavasatina. Shri Devahuti said, My dear husband, O best of Brahmins, I know that you have achieved perfection and are the master of all the infallible mystic powers because you are under the protection of Yogamaya, the transcendental nature. But you once made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill. You made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill, since children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband. Purport. Devahuti expressed her happiness by uttering the word bhata, for she knew that her husband was a highly elevated transcendental position and was under the shelter of Yoga Maya. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, those who are great souls, Mahatmas, are not under the control of the material energy. The Supreme Lord has two energies, material and spiritual. The living entities are marginal energy, tashta. As marginal energy, a person may be under the control of the material energy or the spiritual energy, Yogamaya. They may be under the control of Mahamaya or Yogamaya. Kardama Muni was a great soul, and therefore he was under the spiritual energy, which means that he was directly connected with the Supreme Lord. The symptom of this is Krishna consciousness. Constant engagement in devotional service. This was known to Devahuti, yet she was anxious to have a son by bodily union with the sage. She reminded her husband of his promise to her parents. I will remain only until the time of Devahuti's pregnancy. She reminded him that for a chaste woman to have a child by a great personality is most glorious. She wanted to be pregnant, and she prayed for that. The word Strī means expansion. Didn't know that. By bodily union of the husband and wife, their qualities are expanded. Children born of good parents are expansions of the parents' personal qualifications. Both Kardama Muni and Devahuti were spiritually enlightened. Therefore, she desired from the beginning that first she be pregnant and then she be empowered with the achievement of God's grace and love of God. For a woman, it is a great ambition to have a son of the same quality as a highly qualified husband. Since she had the opportunity to have Kardama Muni as her husband, she also desired to have a child by bodily union. Tatreti krityam upashikshya yatopadeshan yenaisha me parshitotiri rama sayatma siddhyetate kritamano bhavadarshitaya dinastarisha bhavanam sadrisham vichakshva. Devahuti continued, "My dear Lord, I am struck by excited emotion for you. Therefore, kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures, so that my skinny body, emaciated through unsatisfied passion, may be rendered fit for you. Also, my Lord, please think of a suitable house for this purpose." Purport. The Vedic literatures are not only full of spiritual instruction, but are also instructive in how to prosecute material existence very nicely, with the ultimate aim of spiritual perfection. Devahuti asked her husband, therefore, how to prepare herself for sex life according to the Vedic instructions. Sex life is especially meant for having good children. The circumstances for creating good children are mentioned in Kama Shastra, the scripture in which suitable arrangements are prescribed for factually glorious sex life. Everything needed is mentioned in the scriptures: what sort of house and decorations there should be, what sort of dress the wife should have, how she should be decorated with ointments, scents, and other attractive features, etc. With these requisites fulfilled, the husband will be attracted by her beauty, and a favorable mental situation will be created. The mental situation at the time of sex life may then be transferred into the womb of the wife, and good children can come out of that pregnancy. Here is a special reference to Devahuti's bodily features. Because she had become skinny, she feared that her body might have no attraction for Kardama. She wanted to be instructed how to improve her bodily condition in order to attract her husband. Sexual intercourse in which the husband is attracted to the wife is sure to produce a male child, but sexual intercourse based on attraction of the wife for the husband may produce a girl. That is mentioned in the Ayurveda. When the passion of the woman is greater, there is a chance of a girl's being born, and when the passion of the man is greater, then there is possibility of a son. Devahuti wanted the passion of her husband to be increased by the arrangement mentioned in the Kama Shastra. She wanted him to instruct her in that way, and she also requested that her marriage for a suitable house, and she also requested that he arrange a suitable house because the hermitage in which Kardama Muni was living was very simple and completely in the mode of goodness, and there was less possibility of passions being aroused in his heart. Okay, we're ending with this verse. Maitreya Uvacha Priyaya Priyam Anvikshan Kardama Yogamastita Vimanam Kamakham Kakshatas Taryeva Virachikarat. Maitreya continued, O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yoga power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. Purport. Here the words Yogam Astita are significant. The sage Kardama was completely perfect in yoga. As the result of real yoga practice, there are 8 kinds of perfection. The yogi can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, or lighter than the lightest. He can achieve anything he likes, and can create even a planet. He can establish influence over anyone, etc. In this way, yogic perfection is achieved, and after this, one can achieve the perfection of spiritual life. Thus, it was not very wonderful for Kardama Muni to create a mansion in the air, according to his own desire, to fulfill the desire of his beloved wife. He at once created the palace, which is described in the following verses. So we'll hear that description of the palace tomorrow. tomorrow is Devahuti and Kardama enjoy and give birth to 9 daughters. And then Devahuti pleads Kardama to stay back. That's what we're reading tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Granthadari Giridhari, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maharaj Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shri Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai. Little Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shri Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Little Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Little Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shri Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Little Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Little Vishnu Mahabhagavat Shri Gokshadas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Little Vishnu Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Little Vishnu Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nukorya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Guna Sharda Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gopal Sharda Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachar Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sorry. Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan. Sarva Abhishya Bharata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shri Bhakti Kumoj Santa Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Tadiya Shubhati Rabha Titi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavascha. Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sandhubhyai Vacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams. So I'm just pasting in here right now. I'm going to paste in the chat the article by Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj on Srila Bhakti Kumar Shanta Goswami Maharaj, whose disappearance day it is today. It's just loading. Yeah, I had the fortune of being there at his Samadhi when he entered into Samadhi, the All Samadhi Festival, and it was an amazing experience, one of the most amazing experiences. And I found out that today is his disappearance day is my lunar birthday, which doesn't mean anything, but yeah, just interesting fact for me. But yeah, we did 12 hours of kirtan from 8 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning. It was just an amazing experience. All right. Hari Bol, see you all tomorrow. And thanks for joining. Indira Mataji, Revati, Kakaraj, and anyone else who's there. Hari Bol.